The disparity between the southern and northern regions of Ghana in terms of development is a situation begging for critical attention. Poverty levels are still high in the northern part of Ghana, even though substantial resources have been invested in the regions over several years. A long-term strategy to reverse decades of neglect of the northern Savannah ecological zone of Ghana and a need to set a pace for sustainable development is therefore crucial. The Savannah Accelerated Development Authority SADA Afforestation and Guinea Fowl Rearing Program came as a social intervention by government to improve the livelihoods of the poor peasants, especially women, to own assets in economic trees, as well as protect the fragile ecosystem while helping mitigate the rapid effects of climate change in the northern Savannah. The program, established by an Act of Parliament, SADA Act 805, in September 2010, began operating in 2012. The SADA program was categorized into 4 zones: Southern, Central, Eastern, and Western Zone. 50 districts across the 4 zones were beneficiaries of the 32 million Ghana cedis pumped into the SADA afforestation program. 100 people were employed to work on the tree planting sites in each district, making a total of 5,000 workers. Azontaba Cottage Industries Construction Limited, ACICL, was contracted to provide relevant human and material resources for the implementation and management of the project for a 1-year period. After the contract ended, a team from the University of Development Studies were tasked to assess the work done by ACICL. Based on their report released in December 2013, it was recommended that ACICL be allowed to continue providing the technical and management support for the project until the plantations are well established. The recommendation has not been adhered by the Savannah Accelerated Development Authority.
A main problem in the Savannah area is one with firewood or fuel wood production. This fuel wood is getting short. You will realize that even some places where they are doing the shea nut production, they are using some straw and stalks of millet and maize to fire their kilns and all other things. And it is good, it's all fire, but it's not giving you efficiency. The whole project was to take 5 years and not 1 year, as some people were thinking. It was to take 5 years and involving planting of, let's say the target was 5 million trees.
My tour of the SADA afforestation sites started in the Krachi in Chumuri district in the Volta region. This region falls within the southern zone of the program. Periodic weeding of the site and pruning of the thick trees has sustained the plantation thus far, although the contract with the workers was terminated in October 2013. The project assistant in the district, Abraham Kwame Amwa, took me to 2 sites within the district.
I've made them aware that it is a community-based project, and whatever we do here is going to help us, and we know it is one of the interventions of the government, one of the social interventions. So actually my interaction with them, my rapport with them has been so good. So once in a while I tell them there's probability that one day there might be that kind of revival of the project. So why don't we maintain it? Even if they don't come and these trees should actually mature, we can use them for our building projects, our electric poles. We can use them for many other things.
The situation at the site in Dambai in the Krachi East district of the Volta region is different. Workers on the site have abandoned it. Thick shrubs and weeds at the site make it difficult for the trees planted to be seen. Still in the Volta region, I toured some other sites in the Kwanta South district. The project coordinator here Wisdom Ahoga says it was difficult securing lands for the project. He is worried their toil in securing the sites and dedication in planting the trees is now being wasted by overgrown weeds and imminent bushfires.
That is one side of the project. Now this project came in 2012, September 2012. We were on up to the salaries were coming somehow. Then it came to stop about say 4 months later before we had a letter that the project must stop. So as at now you can see the trees standing in the bush because the workers cannot, the beneficiaries cannot get their salary. They also stop coming. That is why you can see the weeds inside.
For a young man like Baba Kwesi, the SADA afforestation program helped him and other young people in his community to provide for their family and was a good cause for keeping the youth engaged in agriculture. Since the termination of the contracts, he now finds it difficult seeing his children through school.
Now enuna bwamyo mafuma jumane nkola na omuko school no ba moja jumano amase ho achireme me ho sara miyeno.
Next sites visited were in the Nanumba South and Nanumba North districts of the northern region. Here again, the trees planted were growing well in spite of neglect. The project coordinator says if urgent measures are not taken, the trees could be destroyed by bushfires. 2 years of neglect of the sites in Kintampo South district of the Brongahafu region, which also fall under the southern zone of the SADA afforestation program, have left the trees planted here struggling to survive as they compete with weeds for nutrients. While focusing on the central zone, I started by touring the site at Yendi, then moved to the Kamina barracks in the Tamale metropolis of the northern region. There wasn't much to see, as most of the trees could not survive the harsh weather conditions after the trees were planted. However, the trees planted at the sites at the Bawa barracks have started sprouting, albeit not receiving any attention by the workers who planted them when the afforestation program started. Timothy Kipo, a training and research coordinator for the SADA afforestation program, says the trees at the sites at Kamina and Bawa barracks, as well as other sites in the central zone, were planted in September 2012.
One of the most critical issues in the north is the vegetation. We need to green the north if we want to survive. And any method that we can use to green the north will survive. And this is one of the most important projects that we should use. There's no doubt that in a large-scale production like this, there may be some areas where there was poor production. There is no doubt about it. But in my view, over 90% of the planted areas did very well. And what you saw at Bawa Barracks was teak. Teak by nature is slow growing, slower than the cassia, and therefore it took up very slowly. And as you could see when we went, we had to open grasses to be able to see them still survive. But they are very hardy. Fire will come over, but after the fire, they will still start sprouting. I think they rushed in assessing the project because tree planting is not like maize planting, where you grow the crop and within 90 days or so you should be able to assess in the case of tree planting, you need a minimum of 3 years to be able to see signs of the trees. But this one rushed within the same within just about in less than 5 months. They started monitoring the problem, and definitely they were going to see a lot of empty spaces. Well, there were a few mistakes. The signages, the signboards were put at certain places which did not portray the reality, because as you could see, the signboard at Bawa Barracks, we had to walk over a mile into the forest to be able to see the project.
Exactly.
So anybody passing by, seeing the signboard on the road, will assume that you are referring to the already grown forest. And that was what brought some of these things. And actually, if you saw it in the television and you were not part of the program, you will definitely believe that yes, these people are using already existing.
Having covered some sites in the southern and central zones, I then went further to assess some sites in the Kasena-Nankana district of the northern region, which fall under the eastern zone. At the sites in Navrongo Secondary School and John Bosco College of Education, the project coordinator was worried that the once viable sites with well-grown trees now serve as a grazing field for cattle.
You know, we consulted the authority and they gave us the place they want the place to be maybe planted. So we have to plant here, went there and plant there. Because it's not under somebody's care, animals are also roaming about here. So they chew and try to, even especially the bulls, they use their horns to destroy it. And the weather too is another factor. Because when it's teenage, it needs some care. But at this level, it's because it's thick, that's why it's still like this. But if it were to be Acacia, other species, by now they will be even die off or maybe.
The final tour of the sites under the SADA afforestation program concentrated on the western zone.
We planted cassia for the first year, but we were asked that first year we should do cassia, and the following previous years we will be changing the species of the trees when the contract ended. The situation here was that when we came, the place was just bare. There wasn't trees. So, and that was what we were told at the office, that we shouldn't cut trees to plant trees. So we're looking for an area where there are no trees. Now when we got here, there weren't trees when we started planting.
Kadam kadam brokum bata be kena ota anda ofune be kena ka ru group tanka ke abin tene ba ki bunto hal mbadan bat subun motekiya ba ankre mu buma ba han pe funu kusuna ku kutuno wal wana twani nana lo ka be to fu ke ko wol kam nan ba to anya to ko wol wahala man belanta ko ki to be kena da nya ba mana anya kuma nanya gwada kula fa funu kusuna kanan koso na ci bike na to ne ben yin ka ba
ci anyi to nchenyo na kana an kama na mbaka a ci anyi to kuma su bana ba asuna wurlo na da futanda pa mutu ndi fuka kanta ka bi ne bi shin kushin kan meji ebe na to ke na mu alo sane kushina na malong ba na ndi na musu anda akulu mu ga akulu ka dora ne tin sina mu kushina na kanan tun kusu
This zone comprises some parts of the northern and the upper west region. At the site in Swalope in the West Gunja district of the northern region, the farm manager Ali Gairi says they still weed the farm and prune the trees, but are worried that if it is not well coordinated, bushfires may destroy the project site. The project coordinators and beneficiaries of the SADA afforestation program say they were given strict instructions not to cut down economic trees like shea nut. At the various plantations I visited, the economic trees were visible within the other trees planted by SADA. Widespread reports that all the trees planted under the SADA afforestation project in the northern regions had died due to ineffective management led to the termination of the 32 million cedis contract with Asontaba Cottage Industries. But a research conducted by the University of Development Studies revealed that about 85% of the trees had survived. My tour of many SADA afforestation sites in all 5 regions up north also showed that the project was viable. So, was the SADA reports which led to the termination of the contract a propaganda gimmick? Now, the over 85% of trees which survived during the SADA afforestation project have been left unattended to while bushfires continue to destroy them. A project which could be the savior of the country's struggles towards protecting water bodies and tackling climate change left to go waste. Aside the SADA afforestation projects I visited in the 4 zones, I also toured some project sites targeted for the guinea fowl rearing program. At the site in the Wa municipal of the Upper West region, the structures for the project had not been completed. Hence, the program could not start.
Before the guinea fowl production starts, it means the housing unit must be completed, where the eggs will be hatched and raised under 2 weeks intensive care. You know, guinea fowls easily die under these weather conditions. So they will be raised, the guinea fowls will be hatched, raised under 2 weeks. Then they will be released to farmers who are willing to do business with the company. So the farmers will then raise the guinea fowls. When they grow and mature, the company will buy the guinea fowl back from the farmers and slaughter it dressed as chicken and sell to the general public. Okay. At the same time, they will buy the eggs again from the company and hatch as day-old chickens, treat them for 2 weeks, and release back to the farmers to raise. Okay. It was going to be some kind of cyclical activity, okay, not only the company. It was going to involve farmers. So as the housing unit was in process, the component of the operations was also running alongside. That is where it comes that people saw farmers being trained in Wa. They were playing with guinea fowls. They said, SADA, where are the guinea fowls? It isn't that the guinea fowls project has started. It hasn't started.
At Mandari in Bole, Alhaji Abdullah and Kasim Al-Hassan used their own resources to begin construction of the structures. They have still not been able to complete it.
We did it from our own resources, waiting that when they come to tell us to start it, already we have the structure in place, so that very fast it can continue.
Yana pejumano dada, yana ma yitrisi ekotu ajumano. Tese opi ajuma se okotu ajumano, ese onye de wanimbre, yana ma yaya ba ya mfandi agro, and started training and pepepe. So omoba unse wa niabre ajumano betuma ba na so yam amanfo yam kuranfo omon benefit. Okay. So onse rese ase a pese ajumano kese mbra na the village no munyina benefit na so yam mo training.
The site in Kintampo marked for the project also had uncompleted structures. The termination of the SADA afforestation program with Azongtaba Cottage Industries Constructions Limited has not just led to the poor state of some plantations in the 5 regions targeted for the program, but has also brought untold hardship and suffering on the beneficiaries. The termination of the SADA afforestation and guinea fowl rearing program with ACI followed an audit report from the Auditor General's Department that cited corruption and mismanagement of funds allocated for the program under the then CEO, Alhaji Gilbert Seidu Idi. The current Chief Executive Officer of SADA, Charles Abugri, says the audit report was premature.
The institution was barely 2 years old. This was the first audit of the institution. The institution set up barely in 2012 and had a very small team. In fact, there were only 5 permanent staff and 4 support staff. So the institution had very, very weak capacity. It was very dependent on an accountant posted to it by the Accountant General Department. So clearly, any audit report will find weaknesses in systems and procedures. But it was interpreted that the trees were not planted, therefore that project failed, and that the Guinea Fowl project also failed. Tree planting project did not fail. An independent assessment by the University of Development Studies indicated that more than 90% of the project's goals were fulfilled. And at the time they assessed, up to 85% of the trees have survived. This is, by any measure, a high success rate for any project. The Guinea Fowl project was only in its beginning stages. The infrastructure was being built, and the mechanism for supporting Guinea fowl rearing was only just being piloted. As we speak, the infrastructure was not finished. As a result of the manner in which the audit report was discussed, the project was also terminated. So the project, Guinea Fowl project, did not fail. It was terminated. We don't know whether it would have succeeded or not if it was allowed to run its course.
So what are the future plans for the SADA forestation and guinea fowl rearing program now that the program has been terminated?
When there is a finding about lapses and limitations, the knee-jerk reaction should not be to shut things down. The reaction has got to be to ensure that things are done properly. The Guinea Fowl project was already terminated, but it was terminated at the time that most of the money had not yet been spent. The Guinea Fowl project was a joint venture. It was an equity. So what we have done is to negotiate with the company to buy back SADA's shares.
If the SADA tree planting project did not fail, as being put across by the CEO, Charles Abugri, the question that begs answers is why was the contract terminated? Another question which lingers is why Asontaba Cottage Industries allowed the termination of the contract to slide by without pursuing a case of judgment debt, when in fact the contract was to last for 5 years.